Good morning, afternoon, sorry. Um, the things that I want to share with you today has to do a lot with the recent developments in Egypt and in Tunisia and all these unrest that is spreading all around the Arab world and North Africa. And we are very, very concerned and very, I would say, anxious to know what's going to happen. But we also are acknowledging right now and analyzing what is the role of social media in all of this. Then let me first start saying that 3 years ago, when I launched this initiative on Facebook, the 1 Million Voices, we were the first surprised. I mean, we didn't know about the potential on Facebook until it happened. So it's not that we had a plan, it's not that we had like a previous study if this was going to work. I did this out of passion, actually out of anger, because I wanted to speak up. And I did it on Facebook, because Facebook was the most successful platform in my country, as in many other countries of the world. And then when it happened, and in less than a month, when we were able to gather all the support from 12 million people all around the world, our first lesson was, and sorry to say that as a youngster, like, wow, oh my God, this is incredible what happened. I mean, Facebook actually connected very well with the hearts of the people, with the public opinion, and I also want to make the point that Facebook itself was not enough. The great thing about Facebook, because it's a pioneering system, it's a pioneering platform, so we got the attention from traditional media. So we engaged with newspapers, radio, and television, and we made a lot of noise. So that's how we actually got the attention from many all around the world. But then after that, 6 months actually after the protest in July and in September 2008, then I had the honor to go to Facebook headquarters and to share my story. And then from this conference that I did on Facebook, then the State Department had an idea. Is that why don't we support other activists like Oscar and give them the opportunity I don't know, to put them all together in a summit to share their best practices. Let me tell you, they did it. State Department was very helpful for reaching out people, and then the conference was hosted and was paid by Facebook, Google, and in that time YouTube and MTV, and they got a lot of attention from CNN and the media. It was great because for the first time, it was evident that people were running causes, that people were defending their principles of freedom, that they were struggling for gaining more rights, and in a moment when you thought that just one citizen couldn't do anything, there were many that were just like me, trying to change that, trying to tilt this, I would say, a status quo that the citizens cannot do anything, that the citizens do not have a voice. So we gathered, and this event changed my life forever. And then, and it has to do with Egypt. That day, it was December in 2012, I met this guy. His name is Ahmed Salah. He is, in that time he was, yes, the co-founder of a civilian movement called April 6. And April 6 was trying to defeat or to topple Mubarak regime that has been in place for 30 years. Things he told me, that he told us, because it was during the summit, cameras were turned off, nobody could know that he was there, and he was actually fearing that when he came back to Cairo, he might get arrested. So actually the State Department actually helped again to prevent that situation. They spoke on his behalf with the Egyptian ambassador in Washington, and then nothing happened to him in that time. Anyway, we learned first that nobody was helping them, that they felt alone. And then when they saw the example of what happened in Colombia and what was happening in other countries, they finally thought, okay, this is the way we're going to proceed. We'll still connect with the people out on the streets, but we will use technology in order to create more grassroots and actually to call for protest. And this protest that is happening right now in Cairo is not new. They have done like more than 20 different protests in the last 2 years, unsuccessfully, and finally they did it, and there is a reason for that that I will share with you later. So going back to Ahmed's story, it was painful to hear because he had been tortured, he had been beaten by police many times. Actually, he showed us his injuries, his wounds. And anyway, I mean, I felt not only, I would say, outraged, but also motivated and, I mean, driven into this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do with the rest of my life. Not only to keep doing what I do in my country, but to connect with other activists. You have no idea how important it is to find that you're not alone, to find that you have the moral support of others. So we make like a pledge, you know, like this oath to one another that we were going to be there for each other in the future. It sounded like a little, you know, prom, high school kind of pledge, but now, 2 years later, it's working. And then how? 2 weeks ago, in the last 2 years, we kept in touch, and we connected, of course, on Facebook. So I was always knowing what was happening in Egypt and all these protests that he was trying to organize. But then something changed forever. In Tunisia, a month ago, a student, his name was Mohamed Ouazizi. He is right now a martyr in Tunisia. He was arrested by police. The police confiscated all his earnings from his street sales, and that was the only income that he had. And he was the only one supporting his family. Everybody was unemployed. And then when the Tunisian police did that, he decided to kill himself. He set himself on fire in front of a governmental building, and that footage was filmed and was published on YouTube. If you watch that video, I didn't, because the video was taken down immediately. But for the moment that it was on the air, many people saw that, and then a revolution started. It was a month ago, and they took like 2-3 weeks to create a movement out of a Facebook page about showing the story and telling the story of this guy, Mohammed. So they did it. They managed to gather support using social media and, of course, any other sources. I mean, social media is just one of the, I would say, tactics or sources for support. But it's not the only one. It's clear that we are not that naive. When that started, they managed to defeat President Ben Ali. So Egyptians followed the example, and then this, I would say, this new, was not that new, but this uprising spread rapidly to Yemen, Mauritania, Algeria, and now we are hearing news from Sudan and Syria. Actually, for tomorrow, I just heard this in the last 48 hours. Tomorrow there is a Facebook site that they are calling for a protest tomorrow, February 4th, in Syria. And it started just 2 days ago. And now they have more than 100,000 supporters. You never know what's going to happen. And I was just talking to Skip that I really encourage you to monitor that group and to monitor the news, because in January 24th, just the day before the protest of January 25th in Cairo, nobody knew what was going to happen. And now see that we're witnessing world history in our faces. I mean, we're watching how history is being made, and this is definitely unique, unprecedented, historic. So please connect to these pages on Syria and Yemen and other Arab countries that are uprising as well. So going back to Tunisia, then Egypt decided to do the same. So my friend Ahmed found the opportunity to replicate what happened. And then his movement partnered with other civic movements, civilian movements. And then there was a pattern in everything that I have been analyzing in the last 3 years. My story of 1 Million Voices, it didn't start with me. It started because I was the storyteller of another story that had to do with a boy, 4-year-old, that was born in captivity. Can you imagine a little baby trapped with his mom in the middle of the jungle, and they decided not to release them, neither the boy or the mom? This is unthinkable for many of us. I think for any human being, and FARC did it. So I told the story of Emmanuel which was very recent, it was striking. I mean, it was really, really outrageous. So I used that to gather support. Tunisia had a martyr, Mohamed Bouazizi, and then we had Khaled El Zahid. Khaled was another unemployed student in Cairo, undergraduate actually, and the police killed him. I don't know many facts about why they did it. The fact is that he was beaten to death, and someone took a picture of the cadaver when it happened, and the picture was published on Facebook. And see, I mean, the role of social media is more incredible than what you think. When you see a picture, and this picture is the catalyst, the trigger of a revolt, of a rebellion. People were just fed up. So they created a movement out of Khaled Zahid, and then the title of the page is, "We all are Khaled Zahid." It was clever, actually. I mean, like, it happened to him, you could be the next. Scary. They were using this psychological kind of blackmail. I mean, like, you have to join us, otherwise you will be the next. For me, it was genius, but it worked. So in just 3 days, we are Khaled Zahid managed to get 100,000 supporters, and the page is actually in Arabic, because it doesn't. I mean, like, it didn't make any sense if all the supporters were in the United States. No, actually, they were Egyptians. Before the blockout, before they closed internet, they managed to learn, and then the January 25th origin was there. I can tell because I was there. I mean, I was monitoring, and I was using, again, technology, Google Translator, to see, I mean, to translate in real time what they were publishing. And then, yes, they were calling for a protest on January 25th. And it's the same thing that we have for the tomorrow's march in Syria, that we didn't know what was going to happen. And then, oh my God, look what has happened ever since. First, a protest on the 25th, more Facebook support, then they closed the internet, and then, okay, then forget about Facebook for now, and then let's analyze what social media is doing with the middle of the uprising right now. Okay, when Mubarak regime decided to close down the internet and every form of communication, I don't know, we were just saying last night that he was kind of stupid, and he left cell phone communication open. It's been intermittent. I mean, not completely open, but I mean, if I was him, I would have closed everything, even the cell phone communication. Then, you know, cell phones, especially the smartphones, they have the capacity right now to send, well, any cell phone actually, they just send a text message to your Twitter account, and whatever you write on your cell phone goes through and actually bypass the restrictions and gets to be published online for the world to see. And the good thing is that they are taking real-time pictures out of the streets, and then that's how we learn, even before CNN, even before BBC, actually in the same pace as Al Jazeera, which has been great, by the way. I'm not doing advertising for them, but I have to tell, they have been the best coverage. And we've been learning things actually in real time. But then we managed all this AYM network, all this network of activists that we had promised, a pledge. We had promised to be there for one another. We were there. Spreading we decided to bypass the restrictions on media and to explode to its top limits Twitter, actually to abuse Twitter, to replicate everything that they were saying. They were just like 20 or 30 journalists and activists on the streets. What we did was we created a list of who they were, and everything they were sharing, we replicated thousands of times, and now millions of times. And now the main source of information, of course, is not CNN, it's Twitter. If you really want to know what is happening 5 minutes ago, just connect to these guys that are transmitting information. And of course, the news are not good. I will later tell you what's been happening, like people being murdered, bad guys riding horses and camels with swords and knives, killing protesters right there in the front of the cameras. Even Al Jazeera has footage about that. It's crazy. It's crazy what is happening right now. But what I was trying to prove is that social media is, besides being a trigger, besides being a catalyst for giving a spark to social movements and actually social revolutions, is also actually topping the role of information, is being the greatest source of information, especially in this struggle when the regime is trying to block. And also, as I told you minutes ago, Egyptians know that we are hearing, that we are there, that we are caring. I don't know if 20 years ago this was possible. And their explanation for this is the speed. You know, 20 years ago, if this had happened in the 80s or even in the 90s, everything we learned in like 3 days later, 2 days later. Now it's only 5 seconds. So we can be there, and they know that we are there. They know that we are copying all and retweeting and reposting and re-Facebooking everything that they are saying to make the world better informed. Will that work? I mean, will that impact or will that change the future? We don't know, and that's the message. But I want to be there to witness if this works. I want to be there for them, and I will see tomorrow if the regime is beaten and taken down, and I want to be there to witness in real time what will happen in Syria and Yemen and the other countries. Thank you.
Fascinating, particularly about Syria. Do you have any idea of the site name, or where is there something close that we should look for?
In Syria?
Yeah, in Syria, since tomorrow's.
Yes. There is a website. Actually, I will share my Facebook information. One of the things that I'm really enjoying right now is to be a citizen journalist. I have no idea about, I never went to journal school, but in my Facebook wall, I'm sharing all the links, and maybe I could create a document with all the links that are right now sharing information about what's going to happen in these countries tomorrow, because protests are being called. There are actually 2 protests tomorrow. One is in Syria, and one is what they have called the Friday of Liberation. They already changed the name of Tahrir Square. Now it's Liberation Square. And then tomorrow, because on Fridays, in all the Arab world, Fridays are the days when they pray. It's like Sundays for us. Our Sundays are Fridays for them. So many people are gathered in the mosque, and they will try to make this praying another big strike. And then rumor has it that many people from different provinces are right now traveling to downtown Cairo to join, and then we expect like another 2 million men protest. So I will be glad to share all of these links and to share the names of the Twitter handles that you should follow if you really want to know what's happening every second.
French just showed me a message. The hashtag Syria brings them all up. So check hashtag Syria. It's got already talking about the number.
There's a trending hashtag. Great.
And they've already got a bunch of people talking about that.
Do you know what is a hashtag, right?
They've got it, hashtag Feb4 now, it's got everything on.
Yes,
Hashtag
hashtag is a
Feb4.
£sign with a word that becomes a trending topic on Twitter. You just need to search that hashtag and you will get all the discussion around that topic.
So democracy may be, so we may see a whole revolution tomorrow in Syria. Good. I mean, interesting to see. All right, questions. Any other questions for Evie? Back here in the back, very back.
Yeah, we've seen governments in these countries shut down websites, block internet access, and stuff like that. It seems to me, if I were a oppressive leader, that before this even happened, I would be trying to block people's access to these sites. Is there a way that Facebook or people who are using these venues can stay kind of ahead of the curve as leaders catch on to the power of social media?
Yes. You didn't ask it, but let me increase the question until I will include several things. First, dissidents right now and organized dissidents, not like me that are randomly running causes. No, like organizations of dissidents. There is one that is cyberdissidents.org, and there is an NGO in Washington that is the Freedom House. And there is also Iranian Center, Anti-Censorship Iranian Center, something like that, that is working in California. So first, regimes are trying to block internet communication and internet tools one way or the other, and they're doing it. So our job is to bypass this by creating software that can bypass. We call it anonymity tools. It's software that you install in order to actually break the firewall and break the IP restrictions and actually disguise your IP in order to get your information outside of a country. It's very tech, it's very savvy, but still, a work is being done. Now, and then answering a question you didn't ask, but I will tell you anyway, now we're dealing with how the regimes are also using social media against us. Last night, when I was with the French and Marta with the Hills, we learned that the regime is now identifying who were the journalists behind the disclosure of information. And right now, like an hour ago, the last thing that I learned is that they were using Twitter to chase them. And they were going to the hotels because on Twitter they have their faces and they have their full names. So they were actually with the pictures and with the names, hotel by hotel in Cairo, trying to arrest all these people that were tweeting. And the journalists, even if they had credentials, that they have kind of immunity, not anymore. So we are now even trying to catch up with the threat that technology can do against us, because it's a bi-directional work. We use technology to defeat them, but they can do it as well. So we are now, it's a battlefield, it's a technological, it's a cyber war, it's crazy. And I'm honored that I'm part of that, but I still fear about the consequences of technology, even against us. So it's going to be a big discussion in the following months.
Question? Yes, right there. There's your mic.
I receive Dish satellite TV, and they have Free Speech TV, and they have Link TV. And I have been watching this on the Dish satellite TV.
Mm-hmm. And I would recommend, one of the things that I like from this is the solidarity that we have showed. I say the rest of the world. I'm not talking only activists. No, all of us. We're showing a lot of solidarity just by sharing information. But the same solidarity was applied to television. Even the United States recognized that Al Jazeera was the main network providing information. But of course, the regime shut down the signal because they could do it. They have the capacity to interfere, what they call the spectrum electromagnetic spectrum. That's a technical term that defines television signals. And you know what happened? London and BBC and Al Arabiya and many other networks decided to cut their own transmission and to ceder. How do you say ceder in English? They gave up their signal, and they gave their signal space to Al Jazeera. So on Twitter, you can find, if you want to see the new Al Jazeera, go to this signal, the frequency, 1 point something, 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 program your satellite dish to go there, and then 5 hours later, they block it, and then you have to go somewhere else. But it's so rewarding that even the networks are offering solidarity to each other, among them.
Yes, he had his hand up right here.
Several parts to the question. First, what is your Twitter handle? There's several Oscar Morales on Twitter.
Oscar Morales G.
G?
As in Guevara.
Okay.
Guevara is my last name, so my second last name.
Excellent.
Yeah.
From there, let me formulate this the right way. Social media is very dispersed, and you've talked about how hundreds of thousands, a million people can
Yep.
come and show up on something. But at the same time, there's a central organizing force behind those pages on Facebook, the Syria page, the Egypt page, or what you've done with FARC. How does it work to manage all those people that sort of raise their hand and say, this is something we're interested in? From there, what's sort of the next step? Because Google was the big thing. They've been overtaken in engineering oomph by Facebook. Twitter now isn't taking over Facebook, but it's moving much faster than Facebook. So what's sort of the next step,
Yes.
or what tools would you want to see in the field?
Okay.
Is another way to look at it.
Well, I will try because it's a complex question. So the first answer is, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. When it comes to activism and when it comes to, to data mine social media, there is tons, millions of information. So it's kind of a process of investigating and processing who are the best Twitterers and who are the leaders behind the causes. Once we get them, we make them public, and we invite them to share with the network. There is a network, and I was just joking, it feels kind of cool. I'm sorry that it sounds a little pretentious, but we feel like we are in the middle of a Justice League, like Superman and Batman and Robin and the Wonder Woman. It feels like it. It does feel like it. And not that we are superheroes, but it's good that we know that we already have a network that is based on the same principles, and is based in solidarity, and is based in that, high school prom pledge that we did in an oath. So we created a website that is movements.org. What is our goal with that? First, best practices, things that you should do if you run a cause, and things that you definitely should not do. Like, for example, has to do with safety, has to do with location. For example, I'm not disclosing where am I. Twitter has also a flaw that if you activate and you don't know how to deactivate the location, Twitter will always let people know where you are with GPS coordinates. It's crazy. They should take that away. Anyway, and it's counter-effective. You could be kidnapped, actually, or shot in the head. Anyway, so what we're doing is to share this, to teach other activists, whether they are new in the field, whether they are experienced, and if they are experienced, better, because we are trying to get them to us, to our network, also to learn more. For example, I am not expert in cybersecurity, in these tools of anonymity and IP and proxies. This is Chinese to me, but I need to learn. At least I need, the anonymity for dummies. That's what we're trying to do with our hands. With, how do you say con las uñas? How do you say that in English? With your nails. We're just like it's a trial and error process. First, so we have a platform for that. You can check also in the document, movements.org. And all of us are there, contributing with the platform and the greater good. And second, we are also just by using our minds, just to select which are the real guys that are transmitting information in the moment it happens. There are plenty. If you go to the hashtag, like more than 100 Egyptians tweeting. But there are 4 or 5, actually I have in my list, I created a list on Twitter, 8 people that are the main sources, at least the most trustable. One is a Sultan el-Qasimi. It's being portrayed everywhere. If you go to Al Jazeera Signal, they have a section in the news that they have every 1 hour they make a news. So in the news, they have a technology section. And you always see the same guys, Sultan el-Qasimi, Mona Nash, and Shadif Abdel Kasur. And these 3 guys are crazy. They are transmitting, even if they know that they could be killed, if somebody discovered that they are using cell phones in the middle of the square, and they are doing it. They are heroes. So Of course, I mean, remember, causes are real-time events. Causes and a movement happens on the streets. Social media is an aid to call for people to gather support and to invite them to the streets. There's no way, somebody actually, yesterday, I was talking to some of the guests about the clicktivism, that, you click, you join a cause, and then what? No, causes are based on that. All this force could be used in the streets, and that's what is going to happen tomorrow, and that's what happened in Egypt since last week. So what we do is that all this collectivism, we transfer that into real activities. I call it tactics. So we're learning about tactics. We are now being, I would say, trained by force of events as like a commander. Like, it's crazy. But these people, for example, Ahmed is right now in the streets. I was on the streets in February 3 years ago. And we saw that there are many people organizing events in the streets, whether to protest against the government, to protest against a terrorist organization, or like in Mexico, to protest against the lack of both, the lack of government to defeat violence. I mean, so we're trying to encourage that, but definitely action happens in real time on the streets. Whatever is the platform is just to get the knowledge, to get like even the moral support to, of course, do things in real time. It's not only collectivism.
Dustin, you got a question right here.
Mr. Morales, thank you for coming. Your words have been both timely and I think strike deep, especially in Americans. We hold freedom and human rights so dearly. Along those lines, politically, in Egypt, we've supported Mubarak. Historically, he's been a key and strategic ally in the Middle East. Given that and the conflict with our own values as Americans, can you comment first on the place of the government, President Obama, the State Department, in helping organize leaders of movements like yourself from around the world? And then second, as Americans, as individuals, how do we orient ourselves in relation to our government? Does that make sense?
Well,
sorry.
You're
He's a
putting me
Clinton
in
School
trouble.
student, by the way,
It's
Oscar, so-
controversial. No, I will use the first question. I will not answer in my own capacity. I just will let you know the answer from Gene Glassman. In his words, he just said when asked about the role of the State Department, he said, this was open. This AYM summit, we didn't hide it. And it was clear that we were going to bring dissidents, even if we were kind of pulling strings against regimes. But that's what we do. That's what Glassman said. That's what we do in public diplomacy. We encourage civil society organizations. And our role, and if you're going to blame me for something, is that we connect people with people. And then they take it from there. And then we don't interfere anymore. We just connect. That was my job, declared by Gene Glassman. So I have no other statement besides that. Sorry, I'm not a diplomat, and I could get in trouble. And the second question was, sorry, the reaction of the American public.
How do we orient ourselves in relation to our government, given strategic interests, but also our desire for democracy for the country?
No, I cannot answer that. I mean, like, I cannot tell you what to do. All I can say is do what is in your heart. If you really believe in a principle, you will struggle, even if someone up will not agree with you. I mean, you have to have your own standards. Your standards are what you decide, not what other people what they are.
Heath?
Clinton School student Heath Carlock. It was a privilege to have lunch with you today.
Thank you.
Jesse. Two questions. One is about the trigger. You mentioned the trigger with FARC, the little boy.
Yep.
And the trigger in Tunisia and in Egypt. What's the trigger in Syria?
I don't know, because I just learned about that yesterday. And because I was flying, I didn't have the chance to check, and it's in Arabic. So I have to go deeper, an in-depth investigation and translate it in order to find out if there is a story behind it. I wish there is, because I told you, it's a pattern. I mean, a successful movement, a successful mobilization has always had as a common characteristic a story of a martyr, a story of someone dying or someone being attacked by police. I guess they have it But still, you don't know if, even without a story, that actually could be a new thing. Even without a story, maybe the Syrian Revolution might work. So, as Skip recommended, later after this conference, we will collect like a document with all the links, and I will include instructions on how to translate with Google Translation. You just give the URL, the address of the site, and Google will take care. Not a good translator, not as accurate as you would like, but you get the idea.
And the second one is, since you're from Colombia, Barranquilla?
Barranquilla.
Barranquilla.
Yeah.
Since you're from Colombia, the situation with Venezuela, how is social media impacting the relationship between Colombians and Venezuelans?
Yes, good question, thank you. Accountability. See, what is happening around, and before social media, what happened is that whether it was the Colombian president or the Ministry of Foreign Relationships or the Congress, members of the Congress, they did whatever they wanted to do because they thought that their decisions were the good ones. But not necessarily people were in acceptance of that, of those decisions. Right now, yes, we have, after February 4th in Colombia, something changed in my country is that now people feel that they have the capacity to drive public opinion, even if it's a bad opinion about government decisions and the way they manage an international relation with another country. So if you go deeper into Colombia, if you do a research, you will find that like a lot of voices, a majority, impossible to say how much, like 60%, 70%, but I can tell it's a majority of voices. They do not agree with the way President of Colombia is managing the relationship. But it is not high politics. It's the people who are just, creating public awareness. And now the question is, will they listen? Will President Santos listen? I think they will, because now social media is being also a political platform for gaining votes and for making campaigns. Obama for America was a proof of that, and we're following the steps. So I think that they are going to be held accountable in the next election, and they will monitor and they will look closely about what is being talked in social media. And we're not liking definitely the situation that is the new best friend that Santos declared he had in Chavez.
All right, we got time for one more question. Yes, right over here.
Yes, thanks for coming to Arkansas. It's great to have you here. One of the things I struggle with on Facebook is that, you can establishing legitimacy of the individual that started the page can sometimes be a challenge.
Where? What page?
On any page.
Okay.
For a movement. For instance, I was just friended recently by someone who had a picture of a friend, was friends with common friends, and I only found out days later that it was someone posing as this individual,
right,
and then writing some pretty terrible things
yes,
on other people's walls. So, and that's a small example of when you get to, a massive movement, how do you prevent some of the, other pages from, gaining, that are illegitimate, gaining popularity and distracting from that main movement?
It happens all the time. Jealousy, I want to do the same. But you know what? I think in the end, it's good. Let's take this example. Let's say that, okay, first, it's not a matter of who does a better job, of who would write first. And then you struggle, hey, you're taking my place, go, I started this first. They are not actually, the good things about Egypt and Syria right now with the websites that I analyzed is that they are not even saying who they are. And if you know how to use Facebook, when Facebook didn't have pages, but they had groups, it was very open the creator of the group. And it was public and it was dangerous. Now with the pages, they are leaderless. You cannot tell who is running a page on Facebook. You cannot say. So what they are doing is that they are not driving these causes because I am commanding you, I am the leader. What they are doing is that they are just putting information and sharing invitations and actually encouraging people, let's do this, let's march together. But actually they are not willing to share their real names because they know they could be killed. So I think it's for the best, because what you hear in the news is that Egyptian revolution is leaderless. So they actually are hiding, and it's a good thing. So see, because of that, nobody feels compelled to create a competition. What they do is that, you know what? I don't know who's running it. I will just join. I will aid the cause. I will just go with the flow that is already been established, and I will not create like a sucursal. How do you say that? Another branch. And it's happening, thankfully.